I'm Callista. And let me tell you something. Being underestimated is one thing, but being erased from your own success? That's a whole different level of betrayal. For years, I poured everything into building my family's company. Late nights, endless sacrifices, turning it from a struggling startup into a $60 million empire. But when the company finally took off, my sister called me useless and took everything I built. My own father backed her. They thought I would walk away quietly, but they forgot one thing. I was the reason Vaytech existed in the first place. The moment they turned their backs on me, I made a choice. If they wanted to push me out, they would have to watch me take everything back. I stared at the screen in disbelief, my fingers frozen above my keyboard as the words coming from my sister's lips echoed in my ears. The sleek, polished conference backdrop framed Sienna perfectly. She looked radiant under the soft glow of the spotlights, exuding the kind of effortless confidence that made people believe whatever she said. And with strategic leadership, we transformed Vaytech into a powerhouse of innovation, she declared, flashing a knowing smile at the audience. When I took over key initiatives, we were struggling to compete. Now, we're not just surviving, we're leading. My stomach turned. I had spent a decade building this company from the ground up. I had written the algorithms that powered our software, closed the early deals, stayed up endless nights refining our systems while she was off chasing a corporate career. But today, in front of millions, she had erased me from my own legacy. Next to her, Magnus, our father and the founder of Vaytech, sat with an approving nod, his hands folded in his lap as if to say, "She's right. This is the truth. The truth." That word used to mean something in our family. It used to mean something to him. The room around me blurred as the audience applauded. News outlets were already running the headline, "Sienna Rourke, the visionary behind Vaytech's rise." I clenched my fists, not a single mention of my name. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. Rebecca Holloway's voice came through the speaker, laced with frustration. "Tell me you saw that." I exhaled sharply. "Oh, I saw it. She just took credit for everything. And your father, he just let her." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "I know." Rebecca hesitated, lowering her voice. "You have to respond. If you don't—" "I need to think," I cut her off, my voice sharper than intended. "I can't react emotionally." There was a pause, then a sigh. "Fine, but don't wait too long. The longer this stands, the more people believe it." I ended the call and checked my messages. Lucas, Vaytech's CFO, had sent a short but urgent text. "You need to get ahead of this, before it's too late." My jaw tightened as I scrolled down to Magnus's contact. My thumb hovered over the call button. I pressed it. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. I set the phone down, the weight in my chest pressing heavier. He wasn't just ignoring the situation. He was ignoring me. That evening, I walked into the restaurant feeling like an outsider in my own family. The dim golden lighting reflected off polished mahogany tables, the clink of silverware, and low murmurs of conversation filling the air. At the head of the table, Magnus sat beside Sienna, a proud expression on his face. Lorraine, our mother, adjusted the napkin in her lap, glancing at me with quiet concern. Sienna smirked as I took my seat. "Glad you could make it," she said smoothly, sipping her wine. I forced a polite smile. "Wouldn't miss it." The waiter poured a fresh round of drinks, and for a moment, the conversation floated around market trends, investments, upcoming expansions. Business as usual, but I wasn't here for small talk. I turned to Sienna. "I saw your interview today." She tilted her head. "Oh? What did you think?" I met her gaze. "I think you left something out." She barely blinked. "Did I?" "Yes." I set my glass down. "You forgot to mention the part where I built the software, where I negotiated the first contracts, where I worked 14-hour days to turn Vaytech into what it is." Sienna let out a soft chuckle. "Callista, come on. Everyone knows you're brilliant. But leadership isn't just about tech. It's about vision, strategy. People need a face they can trust. My fingers curled into my palm. And you think that's you? She shrugged, feigning innocence. I didn't say that. But, well, perception is everything. Magnus cleared his throat, placing a hand on my mother's arm as if to silence any further protest. Let's not make this dinner about business, he said lightly, though his tone left no room for debate. I turned to him, searching for something, anything that resembled support. Dad, you know what I did for this company. His expression didn't change. Sienna's doing a great job, that's what matters. The words knocked the air from my lungs. That's what matters. Not fairness, not truth, not the decade of sacrifice I had poured into Vatek. Sienna leaned back, satisfied. I swallowed back the bitterness rising in my throat. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. I placed my napkin on the table, pushing my chair back. You're right, I said, forcing my voice to stay even. Let's not talk about business. I stood, ignoring the questioning look from my mother. Leaving already? Sienna mused, amusement laced in her voice. I shot her a cool look. I have work to do. Then I turned and walked away, my head high, even as the weight of their betrayal settled like stone in my chest. That night, alone in my apartment, I sat at my desk, staring at the framed photograph on the bookshelf. It was from Vatek's early days, Magnus, Sienna, and me, standing in front of our first office space. I remembered how proud I'd been back then, how I had believed, naively, that family meant something in business. Now I knew better. I opened my laptop, pulling up Vatek's financial reports. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The next morning, I walked into the office, ready to face whatever came next. The weight of last night's dinner still sat heavy on my chest, but I refused to let it slow me down. The sleek, glass-paneled lobby of Vatek hummed with activity. Employees bustled past, their conversations hushed, eyes flicking in my direction before quickly looking away. Something was off. I stepped toward the elevator, gripping my coffee cup a little tighter. My instincts had been sharpened over the years, and right now they were screaming at me that something was wrong. Before I could press the button, Rebecca appeared, her expression tense. Callista! One look at her face, and my stomach clenched. There's an emergency board meeting happening right now. She hesitated before adding, without you. My grip tightened on the cup. What? She lowered her voice. Sienna called it. No one told you? No one had told me anything. I turned sharply, my heels clicking against the marble floor as I strode toward the executive wing. My pulse pounded in my ears. The walls of Vatek had never felt suffocating before, but now they closed in like a trap. I pushed through the heavy doors of the boardroom without knocking. The room fell silent. Sienna stood at the head of the long oak table, her manicured hands resting on polished wood. She was in control, fully in her element. Around her, the board members sat in stiff silence. Magnus was there too, his face unreadable. Sienna's lips curved into a knowing smile. Callista, I was just about to call you in. I glanced at the papers on the table. It was already done. Whatever they had decided, whatever power move she had made, was already sealed in ink. I folded my arms, forcing my voice to stay even. What's going on? Sienna tilted her head. Vatek has grown beyond its startup phase. We need a leader who understands business strategy at the highest level, someone with real corporate expertise. My pulse spiked. And you think that's you? Nathan Pierce, one of the board members, and apparently a man now fully in Sienna's pocket, cleared his throat. The board has already voted, Callista. You're being transitioned out of leadership. The air left my lungs. I turned to my father. Dad? Magnus exhaled slowly, looking away. Maybe this is for the best, Callista. There it was. The final blow. I had spent years building this company. I had sacrificed everything, my time, my relationships, my sanity, to bring Vatek to where it was. And now, with a few well-timed moves, Sienna had taken it all. I forced myself to straighten. I wouldn't let them see me break. What exactly is my position now? Sienna leaned back, her voice dripping with feigned sympathy. You can stay on as a senior consultant. Your technical skills are still valuable, just not in leadership. My nails dug into my palm. Not in leadership. The humiliation settled deep. It wasn't just about the title. It was about being erased. Again. I glanced around the table. Some of them looked uncomfortable. Others, like Nathan, were smug. But no one spoke for me. Fine. I turned on my heel and walked out without another word. Back in my office, I closed the door behind me, breathing heavily. Rebecca and Lucas entered a moment later. Their eyes were filled with concern. Lucas was the first to speak. Are you okay? I wasn't. But I wouldn't say that. I let out a slow breath. Pack up my things. Rebecca's eyes widened. Callista, you don't have to. I'm not giving Sienna the satisfaction of dragging this out. They hesitated, then nodded. As I gathered the last of my personal belongings, I turned one final time to look at the view from my office window. Seattle's skyline stretched out before me, the city alive and thriving. They thought they had won. They thought I was finished. But as I gripped the steering wheel of my car, my mind was already racing. If they thought I was done, they were dead wrong. The invitation arrived that evening, a heavy, cream-colored envelope embossed with gold lettering. It was for Magnus's 70th birthday, a lavish event hosted at one of Seattle's most exclusive hotels. And of course, it was orchestrated by none other than Sienna. Rebecca leaned against my kitchen counter, skimming the details with a scoff. You know exactly what this is. I tossed the envelope onto the table. Yeah, a spectacle. She's setting you up, Rebecca warned. This isn't about Magnus. It's about making you irrelevant in front of every important person in the city. I knew she was right. Skipping it would be easy, but walking away would be giving her exactly what she wanted, and I refused to do that. I picked up the invitation again, running my fingers over the embossed seal. I'm going! Rebecca exhaled in frustration. Callista! I won't cause a scene, but I won't let her erase me either. She shook her head, muttering, I hope you know what you're doing. I didn't, but I'd figure it out. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, the air thick with expensive perfume and hushed conversations. Waiters in crisp black suits weaved through the crowd, carrying trays of champagne. Sienna was at the center of it all, laughing effortlessly, basking in the attention. Magnus stood beside her, surrounded by business executives and industry leaders. The room was filled with the kind of people who shaped companies with a handshake, who decided fates over a glass of bourbon. The moment I stepped inside, the whispers began. I walked through the crowd, chin high, shoulders squared, refusing to acknowledge the stolen glances and speculative murmurs. Sienna spotted me, her eyes lighting up with something I couldn't quite place. Anticipation, amusement, maybe both. She made her way over, her wineglass poised elegantly between her fingers. Glad you could make it, she said, her voice syrupy sweet. I wouldn't miss Dad's big night, I replied smoothly. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Good, because tonight's going to be memorable. I held her gaze. I don't doubt it. She let out a soft chuckle, like she was in on some private joke. Then, with one last knowing glance, she disappeared back into the crowd. A knot twisted in my stomach. Something was about to happen. The clinking of a glass silenced the room. Sienna stood at the front of the ballroom, her expression radiant as she addressed the crowd. Magnus sat beside her, a glass of scotch in hand, watching with quiet approval. Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate our father, she began, her voice smooth, practiced. Magnus Rourke is more than just a businessman. He's a visionary, a mentor, a leader. The room erupted in applause. I folded my arms, waiting. But tonight, she continued, her eyes scanning the crowd before locking onto mine, we also look toward the future. A hush fell over the room. As we celebrate Dad's legacy, I think it's time to share some exciting news about Vaytech. My breath caught. The company needs strong leadership, and as CEO, I am committed to carrying that vision forward without distraction. I felt the world tilt slightly. Sienna's gaze never left mine as she delivered the final blow. Moving forward, I will be taking full executive control of Vaytech as its sole leader. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I stood frozen as the cameras flashed, catching every stunned reaction, every whisper exchanged between guests. This wasn't just an announcement. It was a statement, a carefully crafted public execution of my role in the company. Magnus remained silent, his approval clear in the way he raised his glass. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay still, to absorb every detail, every smug glance, every strategic move she had just played. I wasn't just removed. I was humiliated. And Sienna knew it. I felt her watching me, waiting for my reaction, waiting for me to lash out, to storm out in disgrace. Instead, I took a steady breath and walked forward. I reached Magnus's table, set a small wrapped gift in front of him, and leaned in close. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said quietly. "Hope you enjoy the empire you just handed to her." Then I turned and walked out. The murmurs swelled behind me, but I didn't look back, not once. I stepped into the cool night air, gripping my purse tightly as I made my way to my car. Sienna had won this round, but she wouldn't win the war. The first thing I did the next morning was dig into Vaytech's financial reports, and that's when I found it, the smoking gun. Sitting in my apartment, the soft hum of the city outside barely registered as my eyes scanned the files spread across my desk. My laptop screen glowed with spreadsheets, transaction logs, and legal documents that should have made sense, except they didn't. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe I was reading too much into things, still raw from last night's humiliation. But the more I dug, the more the numbers screamed at me. Something was wrong. Profits had been diverted. Private equity discussions had taken place under the radar. Legal clauses had been carefully worded to conceal their true intent. And then I found the name. Ethan Wells. A corporate predator. A man who didn't just buy companies. He gutted them, stripping them for every last profitable piece before discarding the remains. My stomach twisted. Sienna wasn't just consolidating power. She was preparing to sell Vaytech out from under me. Worse, Magnus was backing her. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I drove across the city to my parents' house, my hands gripping the steering wheel tighter with each mile. The betrayal was no longer just professional. It was personal. Lorraine answered the door, her face etched with worry the moment she saw me. "Callista," she said softly, "I was wondering when you'd come." I stepped inside, my pulse drumming in my ears. "How long have you known?" she sighed, shutting the door behind me. "Your father didn't want me to say anything," I scoffed. "Of course he didn't." We moved to the living room, where she perched on the edge of the couch, wringing her hands. "Magnus believes this is the best move for the company. He thinks Ethan Wells can take Vaytech to the next level." I let out a sharp laugh. "Ethan Wells doesn't take companies to the next level, Mom. He dismantles them." Lorraine flinched but didn't argue. I leaned forward, my voice tight. Did Dad even fight for me? Or did he just hand Sienna the keys and tell her to lock me out? She looked away, her silence answering the question. I sat back, exhaling slowly. "I can't let this happen." Lorraine's gaze snapped to mine. "Please don't make this a war, Callista. Your father believes he's doing the right thing." I shook my head. He's doing what's easy. There's a difference." Her lips pressed together, her eyes pleading. "You could start over, walk away from this and build something new." I stood. "This is mine. I already built it once, and I'll be damned if I let Sienna burn it to the ground." Lorraine didn't stop me as I left. She knew. There was no turning back now. That night, I met Lucas Carter in the shadowed corner of a quiet restaurant. He looked uneasy, glancing around as he slid into the booth across from me. "This isn't a good idea." I ignored his nerves. "The deal isn't finalized yet, is it?" He hesitated. "Number, but it will be soon." "How soon?" "A matter of days." A sharp pang of urgency shot through me. Lucas lowered his voice. "Ethan Wells has been circling for months. Sienna's been playing the long game, making sure everything lines up perfectly before closing the sale." I clenched my jaw. "She's selling Vaytech like it's a used car." Lucas ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know what you're planning, Callista, but if you want to stop this, you need leverage. You need something bigger than just knowing the deal exists." I nodded. "Then I guess I'd better find it." I returned home just before midnight, exhaustion tugging at my limbs, but my mind refused to rest. I poured a drink, letting the ice clink against the glass as I stared out at the city skyline. I had spent years thinking of myself as an innovator, a builder, someone who created solutions. But tonight, I wasn't a builder. I was a strategist. Sienna thought she had outplayed me, that I would fold, pack up, and leave quietly. She didn't realize I wasn't the same woman she had blindsided in that boardroom. I pulled up my private files, records, patents, assets she didn't even know existed. My fingers hovered over my keyboard, a slow smirk curling at my lips. "You want to play dirty, Sienna?" I whispered. "Let's see who wins." I closed my laptop and picked up my phone. The first call would go to Nathan Pierce, the man Sienna thought she had in her pocket. Nathan hesitated when he answered, but I didn't give him a chance to speak first. "We need to talk, now." There was a long pause before he exhaled sharply. "Callista, this isn't a good time." I ignored that. "The conference room at the Oxford, 30 minutes. He started to protest, but I hung up before he could make an excuse. By the time I arrived at the hotel's private lounge, Nathan was already there, shifting nervously in his chair. He looked like a man who had a lot to lose. I sat down across from him, pulling a folder from my bag and sliding it across the table. "I assume you recognize these." His face paled as he glanced at the pages. Financial transactions, private communication logs, a web of bribes and promises, all leading back to Sienna. His fingers twitched as he pushed the folder away. "This doesn't prove anything." I leaned in. "Cut the act, Nathan. I know Sienna has been buying board members for months. The only thing I don't know is how much she paid you to betray me." He swallowed hard, but his eyes flickered with something close to guilt. "You can't win this," he muttered. "She's covered every angle. The board is already on her side." I gave him a slow, measured smile. "Then it's time to change the game." I didn't waste time. By the afternoon, I was standing outside Sienna's office, my fingers tapping against the manila folder I had brought with me. The assistant gave me a wary glance. "Ms. Rourke is in a meeting. I'll wait." The door opened moments later, and Sienna appeared, a satisfied smirk on her face. Until she saw me. "Let me guess," she drawled. "You're here to whine about your tragic downfall?" I stepped inside without being invited, dropping the file onto her desk. She barely glanced at it before crossing her arms. "And? You think this scares me?" I met her gaze without flinching. "If you keep pushing, I'll make sure the entire boardroom turns against you." Sienna laughed. "The board? Oh, Callista, the board loves me." "Only as long as they think you can protect them," I countered. "What happens when they realize you're the reason Vaytech is on the verge of collapse?" For the first time, her smirk wavered. I didn't need her to react. Not yet. I had planted the seed of doubt, and that was enough. That evening, Magnus called. "Dinner, my place, now." I should have ignored him, but part of me still wanted to believe he had some decency left. When I arrived, Lorraine greeted me at the door, her face tight with unspoken worry. Magnus sat at the dining table, a glass of scotch in front of him. "You need to stop." I let out a breathless laugh. "That's why you called me here?" I'm trying to keep this family together, he said. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. You don't get to say that. Not after what you did. He ran a hand down his face. It's just business, Callista. The words snapped something inside me. No, I said quietly, my voice like steel. It's my life's work. It's my name, my legacy, my future. You handed everything to Sienna before I even had a chance to fight for it. Magnus sighed, rubbing his temple. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I pushed my chair back, standing slowly. Then I'll handle it like business. And I promise you, you're not going to like the outcome. Lorraine flinched as I turned and walked out, but she didn't stop me. She knew nothing could. Back at my apartment, Rebecca, Lucas, and Samuel were already waiting. I placed my laptop on the table, flipping open the screen. Sienna thinks she has this locked down. Lucas raised an eyebrow. Does she? I met his gaze, my lips curling into a knowing smile. Not anymore. I took a breath, letting the moment settle. Tomorrow, we start tearing her empire apart. The first move was already in motion. I just had to watch it play out. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating aggressively against the nightstand. Rebecca's name flashed across the screen. Turn on the news, she said the moment I answered, her voice tight with urgency. A cold sensation crept down my spine as I grabbed the remote and flipped to the business channel. My own face stared back at me from the screen, but the headline made my stomach turn. Disgraced former CEO, Callista Rourke's questionable leadership led to Vatek's instability. I sat up straighter, eyes scanning the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Internal sources say Callista Rourke failed to adapt to market trends, leading to stagnation in innovation. Employees question her management style. Was she ever really fit to lead? Every line hit like a hammer. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through the news feeds. It was everywhere. Articles, opinion pieces, tweets dissecting my failure. Every tech blog, every finance column. It was all the same. Sienna had done it. She had launched a full-blown smear campaign, feeding the media false narratives to bury me. I clenched my jaw, my blood simmering beneath my skin. Fine. She wanted a war? She'd get one. By noon, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to let Sienna control the story. If she wanted to drag my name through the mud, she was going to have to look me in the eye while she did it. I picked up my phone and dialed Lucas. Where's Sienna right now? Speaking at the Northwest Tech Summit, he answered. Panel discussion on leadership and corporate ethics. I almost laughed at the irony. Get me a seat, I said. The conference room was packed. Industry elites, reporters, executives. All eyes were fixed on the stage where Sienna sat, poised and confident. I stood at the back, waiting. Sienna was mid-sentence when I made my move. When the panel opened for audience questions, I stepped forward. Callista Rourke, the moderator announced, looking surprised as the room collectively turned toward me. Sienna's expression faltered for just a second before she forced her signature smirk. I took the mic, keeping my tone calm and steady. Since my sister is talking about transparency, maybe she can explain why she manipulated the media with false narratives. The room tensed. Reporters sat up straighter, pens poised. Camera operators zoomed in. Sienna's fingers curled slightly on the armrest of her chair, but she didn't let the mask slip. I'm not sure what you mean, she said smoothly. I held up my phone, where an article headline glowed from the screen. Multiple sources, I said, arching a brow. Care to name them? Or do they only exist in your PR team's imagination? A few murmurs spread through the audience. Sienna's jaw tensed. I don't control the media. Don't you? I tilted my head. You do control Vatek's communications team, don't you? The tension in the room was electric. For the first time in this fight, Sienna wasn't controlling the narrative. The moment the panel ended, I followed her backstage. She stormed into the green room, slamming the door shut behind her. What the hell was that? I crossed my arms. That was me reminding you that I'm not going anywhere. Her nostrils flared. You just made a fool of yourself in front of the entire industry. No, I said, stepping closer. I made you look like a liar in front of the entire industry. She scoffed. You can't win, Callista. No one cares about the truth. They care about the story that gets the most clicks. Then I'll give them a better story. Sienna's confidence wavered for half a second before she straightened her shoulders. You should have stayed out of my way. Or what? I shot back. You'll try to destroy me again? The silence between us was razor sharp. Security stepped in before things could escalate further, ushering us to separate exits. I didn't care. I had done what I came to do. That night, back in my office, I gathered my team. Rebecca, Lucas, Samuel, all of them ready for whatever came next. I placed a folder on the table. Inside were documents, proof of Sienna's backdoor deals, her manipulation tactics, her underhanded schemes. Lucas glanced at them, then up at me. You're really going after her now, aren't you? I met his gaze, my voice steady. Now, let's make her regret ever underestimating me. And the first step? Taking away the one thing Sienna thought was untouchable. Vatex core software. I leaned back in my chair, fingers drumming against the polished oak desk, as Lucas finished going over the final details. It's airtight, he said, pushing a set of documents toward me. Altiora Systems owns the software outright. The licensing contract with Vatex was never renewed. Sienna either didn't notice or was too busy playing the media to care. I picked up the papers, skimming through the legal jargon that confirmed what I already knew. Sienna had made a critical mistake. I exhaled slowly, a smirk playing at the corner of my lips. Then let's remind her who really built this company. Rebecca, sitting across from me, raised an eyebrow. You know this is going to cause absolute chaos, right? That's the point, I said smoothly. By the time she realizes what's happening, it'll be too late to stop it. At precisely 9 a.m., the first call came in. I watched the chaos unfold from the comfort of my office, sipping my coffee as the first ripple of panic spread across Vatex headquarters. The company's entire infrastructure, billing systems, client data access, internal management software, suddenly went dark. Within minutes, phone lines were jammed. Emails flooded in from frantic executives. Investors demanded explanations. By 9:10 a.m., Sienna stormed into Vatex IT department, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floors. What the hell is going on? She snapped. Technicians scrambled to explain, but the answer was staring her right in the face. A single notification blinked ominously on the main server screen. License agreement with Altiora Systems expired. Access revoked. Sienna's face went pale. No, she muttered, frantically typing at the keyboard, as if sheer willpower could override the system lockout. But it was done. She had lost control of the one thing that had made Vatex valuable, and I was the only person who could fix it. By noon, the boardroom was in a state of complete chaos. The emergency meeting had been called, and for once, Sienna wasn't in control. Board members argued, their voices overlapping. Magnus sat in the corner, silent, his hands clasped in front of him. Sienna stood at the center of it all, her confidence shaken for the first time. We can fix this, she insisted, but the desperation in her voice was obvious. Nathan, the same man who had once dismissed me, turned to her sharply. How? How do you fix this? He gestured toward the report stacked in front of him. Do you even realize what just happened? We've lost millions in revenue today alone. A heavy silence fell over the room. Then a board member spoke up. Get Callista in here. Now I took my time. By the time I arrived at Vatex offices, the energy had shifted. No smug looks, no whispers. Just silence as I walked through the halls, my presence commanding attention in a way it never had before. When I entered the boardroom, all eyes turned to me. Sienna, standing at the head of the table, was barely holding it together. She squared her shoulders, trying to summon the arrogance she wore like armor. If this is some kind of stunt... I held up a hand, silencing her. Let's not waste time, I said evenly. You want my software? Then you'll meet my terms. A murmur ran through the board. Sienna scoffed, folding her arms. You think you can just hold this company hostage? No, I said, tilting my head. I know I can. Her expression darkened. Across the table, Magnus exhaled slowly, rubbing his temple. He looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw something close to respect in his eyes. Sienna, however, was shaking with barely contained fury. You think you can waltz in here and demand— I leaned forward, my voice firm. You have 24 hours to decide, or I walk away for good. The next morning, the choice would be clear. Vatek belonged to me, or it belonged to no one. I walked into the boardroom with steady steps, my heart hammering against my ribs, but my face unreadable. The room was tense, the air thick with uncertainty. Sienna was already there, pacing near the head of the table, her nails digging into her palm. Her confidence from days before had eroded into something fragile, something desperate. The board members sat stiffly, avoiding eye contact with her. Even Nathan Pierce, the man who once took her bribes without hesitation, sat with his arms folded, his expression stony. The numbers had spoken for themselves. Vatek was bleeding, clients were in a panic, investors were pulling out, and the stock had plummeted overnight. And the reason? Sienna. Her recklessness, her arrogance, her failure. I took my seat across from her, meeting her furious gaze with nothing but calm. The chairman cleared his throat. We all know why we're here. His voice was heavy, his words deliberate. This company is on the verge of collapse, and we need to make a decision, now. Sienna sat up straighter, forcing a smile. We can recover from this. I have a plan. Nathan cut her off, his voice sharp. A plan? You mean the same kind of plan that got us into this mess? He shook his head. We need leadership that knows what they're doing. Callista is the only one who can fix this. The words struck like a hammer. Sienna opened her mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time, she realized, she had lost. I turned my gaze to Magnus. For once, he looked tired. The weight of his choices, his blind loyalty, the empire he had so carelessly handed over to Sienna, it all sat on his shoulders, dragging him down. The silence stretched between us. Then, finally, he sighed. I thought you were ready, he said, his voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. He didn't look at me. He looked at Sienna. But you weren't. You let your pride destroy everything. Sienna inhaled sharply, shaking her head in disbelief. Dad? I trusted you, Magnus continued, his tone edged with disappointment. And you failed. Tears welled in Sienna's eyes. No, you can't do this. His gaze hardened. I already have. He turned to the board, straightening his shoulders. Callista takes full control, effective immediately. The gavel came down. The decision was made. Sienna didn't move. She sat frozen, staring at nothing, as the world crumbled around her. I watched as the color drained from her face, her lips trembling. Then, suddenly, she shot up from her chair, her breath ragged. You ruined me! Before I could react, she lunged. Her nails scraped against my arm before security stepped in, grabbing her by the shoulders and pulling her back. She thrashed, her hair wild, her voice cracking as she screamed. This was supposed to be mine, she sobbed. I did everything right. I was supposed to win. Her wails echoed in the cold, sterile boardroom. No one moved. No one defended her. Not even Magnus. Sienna collapsed to her knees, her cries raw, her shoulders shaking violently. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel anger toward her. I just felt nothing. Magnus approached me as I gathered my things. His face had aged a decade overnight. His hands, once steady, now trembled at his sides. You were always the smarter one, he murmured. I should have seen it sooner. I met his tired gaze. I had waited my entire life to hear those words. And now, they meant nothing. I nodded once. That was all he was getting from me. Then I turned, walking out of the boardroom, out of my father's shadow, out of my past, stepping into my rightful place. As I entered my office, I exhaled slowly. The war was over. But was the victory worth it? A week later, I found myself staring at an unopened gift, a birthday present I never got to give Magnus. It sat on my desk, wrapped in silver paper, the ribbon slightly crushed from being tossed aside. I had bought it weeks ago, back when I still believed there was a chance, however small, that my father would see me, acknowledge me, maybe even be proud of me. But that moment never came. Now it was just another relic of the past. Vaytech was finally stabilizing under my leadership. Employees walked the halls with cautious relief, knowing the chaos of Sienna's reign was over. The panic had subsided. Clients returned. The company's stock was already showing signs of recovery. Lucas leaned against the doorframe of my office, arms crossed. The numbers are looking solid. Investors are satisfied. Looks like you pulled off the impossible. Rebecca grinned. You saved the company, boss. You should be celebrating. I nodded, forcing a small smile. I should have felt victorious, but all I felt was exhaustion. I glanced back at the unopened gift. Winning didn't erase the loss. I visited my mother for the first time since the fallout. Lorraine opened the door slowly, as if she had been expecting me, but wasn't sure how to welcome me. Come in, she said softly. The house was quiet. No signs of Magnus. No lingering echoes of old arguments. He's retired, Lorraine said, answering my unspoken question. He barely leaves the house. I exhaled. And Sienna? She hesitated. Gone. She left Seattle. I don't know where. I wasn't surprised. Sienna had built her identity on being the face of success. Now that she had lost everything, she had nowhere to hide except in obscurity. Lorraine looked at me, her eyes filled with something deeper than sadness. You proved them all wrong, she said. But was it worth it? I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure myself. The email came the next morning. Subject: Invitation to speak, Brentwood Business School, Sienna's alma mater. They wanted me to deliver a keynote speech at their upcoming graduation ceremony. The topic? The power of underestimated leaders. I leaned back in my chair, reading the words again. It was poetic, in a way. I accepted, not out of spite, not to rub it in, but because success was the only closure I needed. The skyline stretched before me, the city bathed in golden morning light. I stood at the window of my new office, watching the world move forward. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. I thought back to the girl I used to be, the one who spent nights coding in a tiny apartment, building something no one believed in. I closed my eyes, whispering to the ghost of my past self. We made it. Then I turned away from the past, stepping into the future. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. For years, I let others define my worth. I let my father's favoritism, my sister's betrayals, and the doubts of those around me chip away at what I knew I was capable of. But here's the truth. No one is coming to hand you the life you deserve. You have to take it. You have to fight for it. This story wasn't just about business. It was about standing your ground when the world tells you to step aside. It was about resilience, about refusing to let anyone erase your contributions, and about knowing your own value, whether or not anyone else sees it. So let me ask you, have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever had someone tell you that you weren't good enough, smart enough, or strong enough? How did you respond? Because in the end, it's not about what they say. It's about what you do next. If this story resonated with you, if it struck a chord, let me know. Drop a 1 in the comments, or tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to fight for what's yours, I want to hear your story. Let's connect, share, and lift each other up. And of course, if you want more stories like this, real, raw, and powerful, hit that subscribe button. Your journey isn't over, and neither is ours. Let's keep going.
Hello, That old man. Go off and leave your lovely wife behind." It appeared out of nowhere. My wife was staring down at 4 fat thugs who appeared to be salivating at her. By contrast, these young men were obviously drawn to my youthful-looking and diminutive wife, who you would never know is over 40. However, as I get closer to my late 50s, my appearance doesn't exactly match my wife's. I am mistaken for her dad sometimes too, which gives the impression that I'm a pretty ordinary-looking guy. It appears that I am acknowledged as her spouse here. Though considering the circumstances, it might be a little improper. I must admit that I'm a little relieved. My wife has likely been approached by guys in a flirting manner before, having been approached by them frequently since she was a little girl. I was temporarily caught in thought as I witnessed her being hit on in front of me, something I had never experienced before. Shouting at them would be disrespectful for a grown man, and ignoring them is unlikely to make them back off. One of the irate young men reached out for my wife as I stayed where I was told to go. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, pushing his hand away at that very time. The thugs all said, "Huh," almost simultaneously, but I unintentionally said the same thing. In retrospect, I see that this event served as the impetus for me to take back control of my life. Bob is my name. This year is my 57th birthday. I'm regarded as tall for my age group at 6'3". Even if I'm not particularly agile, I think I still have respectable muscles and dexterity. That being said, I'm not easily intimidated, even if some punk gets on my nerves. It is most likely because of my military service that I am still physically fit at my age. I was in the military when I was younger. It appears that I was once stationed in a nation ravaged by protracted civil conflict. There, citizens engaged in gunfights under the command of rebel fighters, putting even youngsters in danger every day. Although the villagers might not have felt comfortable trusting a stranger like me, I try my best to safeguard them. The explanation for the frequent "apparently" and the ambiguous information seems to be that I lost both my right arm and my memory there. I awoke to find myself in a hospital bed. The sight of my bandaged body hurt more when I started to recollect things than the ache itself. Even more painful than the suffering was losing my identity. I couldn't remember my name, but I could still remember the words. I could comprehend. I knew the names of the objects I saw, and I knew what was necessary to survive, but that was all. Me? Who am I? From where am I? All traces of my identification had vanished. Now, how am I meant to live? My wife Catherine was the only source of hope I had in the depths of my sorrow. She never missed a day of visiting me while I was in the hospital. She was always by my side, even though I wasn't married, and to be honest, didn't even know who she was. "Even if you forget about me, it would be great if we could make a lot of memories from now on," she said to me. We got married, and she acquired my last name once I was released from the hospital. I had no place in the military and had to be discharged because I had lost a portion of my body, and my memory had not returned. I was then paid a substantial sum of money. I could live off of it for the rest of my life if I was thrifty. It was enough money. However, I started looking for a job because I didn't want to do nothing. My dominant arm and memory were gone, so the occupations I could do were limited, and I got turned down for multiple jobs during interviews. I eventually got recruited by a tiny cleaning company. I was given assignments to clean offices and schools, locations where I could still function even without one arm. Though I couldn't recall my history, I had a happy life. Above all, my dear wife Catherine was waiting for me when I arrived home. I made the decision that this was my life going forward, and that I would be happy to live out my days with Catherine. I retired at age 55 per her recommendation. Luckily, Catherine worked, and we had enough money saved up to live well in retirement. My intention was to work as long as possible, but I didn't want to worry Catherine, so I made the decision to retire. But again, I never really had any interests, so I had lots of spare time after I retired. My daily walks would qualify as a pastime if I had to choose one. I began going for nearly daily walks. That Monday morning was so lovely. I made Catherine's breakfast as usual and said goodbye. I got out of the house at about 9 in the morning, having done the laundry and some light cleaning. I suppose you could refer to me as a stay-at-home spouse because my primary responsibility is cleaning. Buying dinner at the grocery store was a regular stop on my way back from my morning stroll. There is a big housing complex on my walking route, and there is a big park in front of it without any playground equipment. I used to take breaks on the bench in the corner, which was my favorite place to be. The park felt homey in spite of its open layout, which contrasted with the European-style design of most American parks. I took a book out of my reusable bag and started reading the mystery novel I was halfway through while I sat on the bench. Nice weather, isn't it? The man, who I assumed to be somewhat older than myself, came over and said this kind of greeting while sporting a soft smile. Yes, the day is pleasant. While I don't have a lot of social anxiety, I am a bit of an introvert, so I frequently feel uncomfortable striking up a conversation with someone I just met. I apologized awkwardly, but the man gestured to the bench without seeming annoyed. Mind if I sit here? Oh, right. There is space for 2 people on this bench, but I was seated in the center with my luggage next to me, making it impossible for anyone else to sit there. I'm sorry, my bad. With haste, I stepped to the bench's edge and settled my eco-friendly bag on my lap. He sat next to me and said, "No worries, I just wanted to chat with you for a bit." Talk to me. It's never happened before. I don't think anyone else has ever enjoyed a chat with me, especially an elderly guy like myself, but Serene seems to appreciate my dull stories. Observing my perplexed expression, the man shook his head and attempted to clarify. I apologize for the abrupt approach. Jason is my name. Jason, why do you? Jason smiled gently and interrupted me before I could say anything more. I take it you visit this park daily. Yes, I agree. Don't you think it's fantastic that there isn't any play equipment here? Given there isn't any playground equipment, I think it's more a plaza than a park, but given it's called Johnson Park, that makes sense. I'm not the type to mince words. Would you be willing to give some supplements a try? Add-ons? Does this man also sell health products, I wonder? Did he simply happen to choose the middle-aged man who appears to be a sports enthusiast to pitch to? Since this is a sample, it is provided to you at no cost. Kindly give it a try if you'd like. Jason said calmly, yet he pressed the pill into my palm. Well, if it's a free sample, you should probably take it. I could always throw it away instead of taking it. It appears to be just like any other drug at first glance. Please accept it. I'd like to know what you think when I return. Just as I'm staring dumbfoundedly at Jason as he briskly walks off the bench, he looks back. See you again, Bob. I winced from a sharp headache, and I couldn't stop thinking about Jason's kind expression as he called my name. Did I really tell him my name? Wait. When I told Catherine the event that evening, she advised me to discard the supplement. You ought to alter your walking path as well. It's advisable to stay away from this person as he seems hazardous. Catherine makes a valid argument. Ultimately, taking drugs from anyone other than a pharmacy or doctor would only be the action of someone seriously lacking in judgment. Naturally, I'm not going to accept it, but I feel horrible if I did the next time I see him. Since I'm not very good at lying, I'd probably come out as biased. You're not required to meet him. He is unaware of your residence, correct? I'm curious. It seems he didn't recognize my name. He might be able to find my home if he is aware of my walking route and last name. Call the police if, by chance, you run into him. He is undoubtedly a villain. I sense something is off. Despite not being a fortune teller and without psychic abilities, Catherine's intuition frequently proves to be correct. I am aware that in her case, it should never be taken lightly, even when it is just a hunch. The following day, I followed her suggestion and altered my walking path. I even picked roads I had never driven on before, going past houses I had never seen. I realized how boring my regular walks had become because of the novelty of these strange sights. Despite having lived in this area for more than a decade, there is still a great deal I don't know. I was watching the cars go by from an overpass when I felt a nudge from behind. I nearly toppled down and frantically clutched onto the railing with my left arm. The individual who had attempted to push me was nowhere to be seen when I turned to look around. I stepped onto the pedestrian overpass, stepped over the railings, and sat down right away. I sat there stunned that I had fled, and waited for the shaking in my legs to stop. I had no doubt that I was being pursued. A few days later, I was shoved while waiting at the lights, flower pots dropped from above, and there was a near fall from the overpass. Although I was able to avoid these threats, I couldn't forget that someone attempted to burn my house on fire. Fortunately, I saw it immediately, and it was only a small fire, but now there may be a risk to my wife as well. Thus, I grudgingly dialed the police. Although they can't guarantee safety around the clock, they promised to step up patrols and be prepared to act if something unusual occurs. It's kind of comforting to know that someone is watching. To be honest, as long as Catherine is secure, I won't mind. It is all that matters to me. And then there was calm for around a week. Perhaps they fled when they saw the cops stationed nearby. I have no problem with that. It doesn't matter if they are discovered or not as long as they remain hidden. Jason has not gotten in touch, and there have also been no incidences. We went back to our regular lives, and Catherine appeared relieved as well. Then suddenly it occurred to me, how about we go on a vacation? I could take a little longer off, she proposed. A travel abroad. Spain was Catherine's dream destination. Although we had spoken about visiting there for our honeymoon, we opted not to spend all of our cash at that time due to the unpredictability. We decided to take a trip to Savannah, Georgia, instead. Catherine fell in love with Savannah on that trip, and she has gone back numerous times since. This time, I was shocked to learn it was an international excursion instead of my anticipated return to Savannah. It's all right. Come on, let's go. Our honeymoon was not permitted to be overseas. Actually, it has been nearly 10 years since our previous journey. Said I. We both had jobs and rarely got time off together, so it had been quite some time since our last real vacation. I smiled as I watched Catherine excitedly making plans to acquire new clothes and luggage for the trip, and I started to get excited about the international trip as well. I looked down at my missing right arm, missing from the elbow to the wrist. Where had I been assigned? I never asked pointed questions about that time because Catherine didn't enjoy talking about it. As a result, I'm not sure of the location or the circumstances. There had been fighting, but I didn't think it was Spain. Getting on an airplane could remind you of something. A ghostly ache shot through my missing arm, but I forced myself to ignore my pessimism. I started looking up tourist destinations in Spain online and making a list of the places I wanted to go. We followed through on our travel arrangements for the following month. We arrived at the airport 2 hours ahead of schedule and made plans to unwind in the lobby. Even though it wasn't my first time traveling overseas, I had forgotten all about the week-long stay, like it was the first time. Hoping not to get homesick, it would seem that the flight to Spain would take a while. Since I have trouble staying motionless for extended periods of time, the idea unnerved me. I said to Catherine, "I'll get us something to drink," and she said she wanted to explore the airport as we strolled. She was 40 years old, but her youthful zeal remained. I laughed and followed her around while she happily clasped my arms. "Hey, old man, why don't you leave that beautiful lady and go home?" Abruptly, a voice spoke up. Straight ahead of us was a bunch of men. Startled, I took a step back and dragged Catherine with me. She staggered and slid to her back. With haste, I knelt next to her, giving her back support, and asked the men, "What do you want?" Looking up at them. "Did you miss that?" I guess elderly people have hearing problems, laughed loudly in jest. What made it so humorous? We'll tend to her right now. You can go, old man, one of the men said, shooing Catherine away with a motion akin to chasing away an animal. But Catherine pushed his hand away, peering down at the guys with a tone that was unusually acerbic. She replied, "Are you ready for what's coming, Not just the guys, but even myself was surprised. Is Catherine a martial arts practitioner that I'm unaware of? Even though we had been dating for a while, I had never heard of anything like this. However, perhaps she had acquired some knowledge during her childhood. Is this actually going to be a battle that happens right here? Not in a manner. She was really looking forward to the vacation, so she wouldn't ruin it. Furthermore, I find it impossible to envision her engaging in physical combat. Does that imply that I have to intervene? I was stunned when I fixed my gaze on Catherine's face, and she returned the stare. Her look conveyed a range of difficult to pin down feelings. After a brief moment of eye contact, Catherine turned away and bit her lower lip. I was unable to fully comprehend Catherine's emotions, and strangely enough, the males did nothing either. Everyone in the area was feeling uncomfortable as the situation came to a standstill. I answered, "Sorry. I apologize." But then I said, "Why are you apologizing?" I tried to ask Catherine for explanation because I was confused, but it appeared like the men were getting impatient. Roughly grabbing my jacket collar, he said, "Hey, don't ignore us like that," and made me stand. His power, derived from what seemed to be a roughly 6'5" body, matched his intimidating appearance. Anyone might be knocked out with a single blow from those enormous arms. "Come at me, man." He let go of my collar and demanded a fair fight, which surprised me. How was he thinking? Catherine's intents are beyond my comprehension. I'm so confused that, to be honest, I don't feel like talking to anyone. I don't think I could survive a fight with a person that big. I am almost 60 years old, thus I am the most aware of how susceptible my body is to injury. The man did not hesitate to raise his fist upon noticing my concern. I flinched, expecting my left cheek to be broken, yet all around me seemed to be moving slowly. His right hand was approaching me slowly. My body automatically reacted when it saw his onslaught. My left hand struck him in the left chest with a counterpunch that felt almost like it was being sucked in. His eyelids were rolled back as he lay in front of me the following second. My pulse was racing. I made an effort to relax, yet oddly, my mind was very at ease. Everything seemed so far away, like though someone else had seized possession of my body and I wasn't myself. Somewhere a woman's cry resounded. I must have knocked the man down in front of her. That's when I was able to move once more. I yelled at the man who was still and frothing at the mouth. However, there was no reply, no respiration. I tried to feel his chest and wrist for a pulse, but there was none. I went white. "Hey, come on, breathe." I tried CPR as best I could recall, but it didn't work. The other men merely stood there in awe, not knowing what to do while the man refused to move. I kept trying, frantically, to bring him back to life. "Please, please, breathe." I started crying and was pulled away by Jason, the guy who had given me some supplements at the park the other day. "Excuse me," I said. He opened his suitcase and took out a machine. Perhaps it's some sort of AED. The man's body shook when he placed it on his chest and pressed a button. The man drooled and came back to life a few seconds later. The man spat out saliva and trembled, as if recognizing what had happened to him. The men looked at Jason and nodded before heading out. They appear to have known Jason. Jason looked at me and grinned, still frightened and puzzled. "Let's have a talk somewhere we can sit down and relax." I called off the vacation. Neither Catherine nor I were feeling like taking a vacation right now. I later gave the security officials who had come an explanation of the entire situation. Since I was the aggressor, They had an obligation to turn me over to the police. However, the man I had injured did not file a report. Jason testified on my behalf and proved it was self-defense. Therefore, there were no legal issues, and I was released. Despite having a slim chance of making our flight, Catherine and I chose not to enjoy the vacation, so we canceled. We went home with Jason, who wanted to talk in a quiet place. Surprisingly, Catherine proposed that we have a conversation at home instead of the neighborhood cafe where I had intended to meet him. It was meant to be Jason and Catherine's first meeting. I questioned why Catherine would welcome such a man into our home, because she seemed to dislike Jason for giving me some suspicious medicines. Maybe this was her way of repaying him for standing up for me during the airport incident after all. When we arrived to the residence, we didn't waste any time in small talk and got right to the issue. So, where should we start? With his palms facing up, Jason shrugged while sipping the coffee that Catherine had made. To tell the truth, I have no idea what the hell is going on with me right now. Could you first tell me who you are, if that's okay? Jason closed his eyes and slowly nodded. Obviously. I am a physician by profession. As for our relationship, Bob, you were previously one of my patients, but I've retired from active practice. Client? Oh, I forgot who my doctor was. I suffered a serious injury when I was still in the service and was out of commission for a while. I started to say something about that moment in appreciation, looking down at where my right arm used to be, when Jason interrupted. Please don't thank me. I'm not worthy of it. What do you mean? Jason inhaled deeply, then released it gently as he raised his head to the ceiling. What has Catherine told you about your past? How was that? My past. The past I can't even begin to recall. I told Jason all I could recall, including the fact that I had no recollections of that period of time, and that I had once been a soldier who lost his right arm while performing his duty. Jason listened closely to my explanation, his eyes displaying a mixture of sorrow and sympathy. When I was done, all he replied was, I see. Should I tell them the truth? He questioned, turning to face Catherine. Catherine said nothing. Jason asked me to remain calm as he revealed the facts to me, taking her silence as permission. To begin with, Bob, you weren't your typical soldier. You served on a special operations squad. Hold on, wait. What, you're claiming that I was on this special operations team and not in the military? Has Catherine been deceiving me then? To be honest, I couldn't care less about the specifics of my past, like if I had been a soldier or a member of a special team. However, it was shocking to learn that Catherine might have lied. Jason's statements felt validated by Catherine's silence. Please settle down. Catherine undoubtedly had good reasons for withholding some information from you. I take it that she wouldn't lie maliciously. Catherine said nothing, her expression expressionless. Let me explain, even if you might not get or accept this right away. You were assigned to a team tasked with ending a civil war in a certain nation. Even I don't know the precise details of who exactly commissioned this mission. Only the highest-ranking officials were aware of it. Regardless, you traveled to that nation, and the war was won as a result of your efforts. Like I was being praised with pride, I felt as like I was listening to someone else's heroic tale due to the shock of Catherine's apparent lie. I made an effort to pay attention, but what Jason said next astounded me. You were truly remarkable. 96 lives were lost by you alone, after all. My mouth hanging open must have made me look stupid. I couldn't tell if Catherine was crying because she saw my response. Naturally, you cannot be compared to some random criminals in these circumstances. Saying that you had already neutralized opposing forces with overwhelming power is probably more accurate. However, queries also surfaced at the same moment. Questions I put forward. Indeed, does peace make sense if it comes at the expense of other people's lives? Depriving others of their life. Yes, I had expected that to happen, especially since I thought I'd lost my arm in battle. But 96 people? I was shocked by the amount and couldn't contain my feelings. Bob, it's all behind you. The major point is still to be made, so don't feel bad about it just yet. Nothing could be more startling, in my opinion. My vision grew fuzzy, and my breathing became irregular. My brain seemed to be trying to black out in an attempt to escape reality. Whoosh! I gave myself a hard slap across both cheeks. Tell me. Kindly proceed. I will never flee. I'll confront my history. Someone from the top of the organization has ordered that you, poor, injured, and recuperating, be taken out. Why would you aim for my life? Individuality is not something a soldier should possess. That should apply to any unit. The unit as a whole may disintegrate if everyone begins to doubt their own conduct, as this will disrupt the chain of command. Because it's long, I won't get into the specifics. First of all, the reason you were hurt was because you were such a formidable presence in combat that the other opponents were unable to stand you. You lost your right arm when many enemy soldiers assaulted you due to a brief error in judgment. A pulse raced through my upper arm. The care provided was only temporary, as the local hospital lacked the necessary equipment. If you were just a dumb slob, you would have most likely been let to die. However, the group would not give up on their hero. You were brought to the United States right away while unconscious. That's how Jason and I met. I survived his invention of surgery, even if it did not return my amputated right arm. Had my recollection already faded by then, it seems? It's a reasonable assumption given the serious physical harm. My memory seems to have been erased by a powerful shock to my head. It makes sense, doesn't it? I was the one who took your memories, which is why you still had them. Jason, why? Why not? Jason hesitated before rubbing his forehead and said, I had no option. It appeared that you were making suggestions to your close pals about quitting the unit, and someone who overheard told the superiors about it. I'm not sure how exactly they decided how to handle you, but simply by making hints about leaving the unit, they most likely saw you as a possible risk. They most likely possessed a variety of secrets because it was a secret unit, and there may have been worries about a leak. However, there was a person who objected to your dismissal. He was the one above you. He pleaded for your life, citing your accomplishments and moral qualities. Naturally, he was rejected, but he didn't give up. Ultimately, he spared his own life to save yours. So you're saying he died in my place? Jason nodded profoundly, looking truly sorry. That man was. Jason turned to look at Catherine. Catherine's father. I got out of my chair without giving it any thought. Coffee spilled out of a tipped-over mug, but nobody appeared to mind. Catherine. It was mind-blowing, the thought that my beloved wife's father died because of me. Because of his offering, you were spared. However, it was more complicated than just releasing you. I was asked to remove all memories of you. However, it's not as simple as it seems to erase memories. I tried a number of different approaches before finding a medication that would cause amnesia, but it's definitely against the law. I was forced to drink it, which caused me to lose my memory. Your physical recovery went well. Saying smoothly in reference to memories can sound insensitive, yet we were able to remove them without any problems. You were reunited with Catherine, your former boss's daughter, and enjoyed a happy existence once you were deemed fit for discharge. Jason looked directly into my eyes as he closed the story with a strong sense of emotion. Now, why am I in front of you right now? It is to monitor your state. So you came to check if my memories are indeed gone. John gave a loud nod and clapped his hands. You pick things up quickly, precisely. However, isn't that incoherent? Why tell me everything about the past if your duty is to make sure I forget everything? Jason responded with a cheeky grin. You really pick things up quickly. It's easy. The group you were a part of wants your memories erased forever. Thus, all you have to do now is retake the amnesia medication. However, you would be suspicious if I instructed you to drink this out of the blue, wouldn't you? Similar to how you threw away the vitamins I gave you before. I made the decision to be open and ask that you only drink it if you want to for that reason. It will be removed from your mind nevertheless. Why not use this space to reveal the organization's secrets? Thus, Bob, if you accept this, then everything will work out. Jason held up a single pill in his palm and winked. This is the memory-erasing drug. Indeed, compared to the last version you took, this one is safer. Proceed. Accept it. Jason pressed the tablet firmly into my palm. With a sigh and a phew, he finished his coffee. It must be dry in his throat from all the talking. This lifts a weight off my shoulders. I'll forget about Catherine if I take this. Furthermore, I might possibly lose my identity. I was so overcome with terror that I just gazed at the pill in my palm. Don't you want to enjoy a quiet retirement with your spouse? I mean, a wise guy like you knows what I mean, right? Is there nothing else I can do? Ultimately, for someone like myself who has taken so many lives, to now yearn for my own happiness is rather bold. Furthermore, losing my memories seems like a tiny price to pay if taking this medication guarantees that Catherine won't suffer any harm. However, I apologize. It's too much for me. Don't give up, Bob. Don't lose heart after all this. Living under continual observation all the time. I want to save my memories of Catherine, not lose them. Even when she lied, Catherine has always supported me without question. It is not significant. She did it, I think, for my benefit. Furthermore, I have no doubt that she is not the type to take advantage of others. Above all, she is not the type of lady who would accept saving herself at the cost of another's suffering. I trust her because of this. Even her falsehoods are forgiven. I'm not sure what this group has in store for us, but I'll do everything in my power to keep her safe, even with my aging body. In addition, I'm lacking an arm. Little that I can do. To be honest, I'm not sure if I can keep Catherine safe till the very end, but I can commit the rest of my life to her and live it with her. Whoa, choking. Then Jason started throwing up. Catherine was unfazed, but I was stunned. Is this the last one? I've kept my word, right? Jason scowled at Catherine, who returned his icy stare. How does your own medicine taste? Where did you get this? You would not need to know. Even if I told you, you would forget. Jason writhed in agony, cursing, for 10 or so minutes before collapsing. After a while, Catherine turned to face me and started crying. Before, she had been staring down at Jason. That's finished. Lastly, I'll divulge everything to you. All he wanted to do was try his medicine. Jason woke up an hour later and couldn't remember who he was. I brought him to the local police station and told them I had discovered an old man wandering around, leaving the rest to be handled by the police. Given the consequences of the medicine, I don't think he'll be retiring peacefully. Catherine was waiting for me when I got home, having cleared up Jason's mess. While much of what Jason claimed was accurate, there were some discrepancies. Apparently, her father had told her about my predicament. When I was injured and could no longer serve as a soldier, the organization first intended to use me in a support capacity. But John was against that. He wanted to use me to test his medicine. He suggested wiping my memory and then kicking me out of the company. Jason's perspective was taken into consideration since, it appears, he had family members in positions of authority inside the company. I was used as a test subject to demonstrate the efficacy of his medication. I took half of the medicine, having deftly crushed it in my hand before ingesting it. Catherine saw this and came over to me, weak and drooling, and took the half pill out of my fisted fist. I looked at Catherine as my consciousness began to fade. With steely eyes, she told me that she swore revenge upon Jason. It turned out that Jason's evil advice had also caused Catherine's father to pass away. Catherine's father was genuinely acting in the guise of taking responsibility for his workers, despite the fact that he had opposed making me take the unknown medicine until the very end. Catherine harbored a deep-seated grudge against Jason between her father and myself. However, we later got married and led contented lives. Catherine thought about moving on and living in peace with each other. She secretly hoped that I would never lose my will to fight and my need for revenge. She desired for us to face and defeat our adversary as a team. However, she struggled within for a long time, not wanting to ruin my hands one more. Then the chance presented itself. Catherine achieved her purpose by keeping an eye out and inviting Jason to our house. I apologize for my lies. I know you're upset, but I was unable to forgive him, especially for Jason. If you wanted a divorce, I could understand, Catherine remarked, forcing a grin. It was obvious to everyone listening to her tremulous voice that she was trying to project bravery. Not me alone. I don't blame you for lying, Catherine, and I would have wanted to exact revenge on your father for standing up for me until the very end, I said to Catherine. I can't remember her father or the feelings of that period, though I do remember it in a vague way. Even so, I have to have thought that was completely inexcusable. She is not affiliated with the group, thus she is unaware of the specifics. Her father, it seems, just told her about my treatment. In my memories from the past, I could have lost my right arm, but I still have you in my left arm. For me, that is more than sufficient. I gave Catherine a strong hug with my lone arm, and felt her thin, frail body cry in my arms. She appeared so exposed as a result. Jason's predicament turned into a side note. Jason's true identity remained a secret, but when he was spotted roaming around clearly confused, it caused considerable public curiosity. I was the one who found him, and for some reason the media got my address. Still, I refused to be interviewed and remained silent. As the one who was involved, it is only normal for me to remain silent. However, I find myself wondering why Jason lost his entire sense of self after taking the half tablet, whereas I simply lost my memories. But thinking about it now is useless. My marriage to Catherine has remained happy and strong. We even took the much-awaited trip to Spain, enjoying our first international travel together. Catherine exclaimed with excitement that she'd hoped to travel to every nation in Europe. We'd have to live past 100 years old, even if we traveled to one nation annually. However, it seems worthwhile to live a long life simply to see her grin. I'm ignoring your existence from today. The message that was affixed to the front door stated that. This seemed like yet another setback from my wife and daughter after a string of demanding shifts. They behave as though I'm non-existent. Until I saw my wife and daughter's true intents, I continued to think that we could go back to the good old days when we got along well. I turned off the house's water and electricity as a first move in my revenge. My wife confronted me out of rage. I'm Tim, and I'm 55 years old. I own a small advertising agency in a conventional New York neighborhood. We employ 11 people total, including temporary and part-time workers. People in their 20s to 60s work at this family-run business, which is undoubtedly more comfortable than my house. I remarried Kathy 5 years ago. She was 15 years my junior. I accepted Mary, Kathy's daughter, who was in the 5th grade at the time, into our home as my stepdaughter. Mary, while being a stepchild, became my first kid as I had no children from my first marriage. I was originally concerned about her acceptance of me as her father, but she called me Dad and loved me right away. Regardless of how busy I was, I would leave work to race to Mary's track matches and set up my camera to record her courageous moments, since I thought of Mary as my own daughter. This year, Mary is starting high school, which should be an exciting time. Sadly, in our 5 years of marriage, our family relationship has entirely cooled down. I understand why. I was frequently absent from home due to my constant work-related distractions. In my first marriage, it was the same. I was employed by a large corporation as a corporate employee back then, when I was much younger, in my 30s. I used to frequently entertain clients or go out for drinks with supervisors and coworkers after work. I would usually return home in the wee hours of the morning. My wife eventually left one day, taking a divorce note with her. My first wife and I got divorced years ago, and I never believed I would get married again. However, that is how my current wife, Kathy, entered my life. I meant to value this friendship even more than before, but I haven't been able to go home at all in recent weeks due to work-related stress. No, it's only a 30-minute trip from my house to the office, so I could have made it home if I had really tried. However, I persisted in spending the night at the office since I felt uncomfortable around my family. When I did go home, Kathy would actually just say, "Oh, you're back," without even fixing dinner, and we seldom talked about anything other than what was absolutely essential. Nonetheless, I made a concerted effort to communicate with my family. "I'm sorry for always coming back at odd hours. Hey, I might be able to get the next weekend off for a long weekend. How about we take a family trip to a hot spring, just the three of us?" But all Kathy could muster was a strained smile in return. "You don't need to come. Mary and I will go as usual. Besides, young kids aren't interested in hot springs these days." "Is that so?" I was at a loss for words. Mary's attitude was even worse than Kathy's, who was colder than hell. When we did occasionally get together at the house, she would just give me a frustrated look in return, even when I smiled. It resembled how someone might respond if they saw an unfamiliar stranger attempting to strike up a conversation on the street. "Don't look so upset. Seeing you smile would blow all the fatigue from my work away." "What? That's super creepy. I'm not just upset. I genuinely dislike you. Go away." Shaken by her remarks, I looked to Kathy for guidance. "Mary recently told me she hates me. She used to call me Dad when she was in elementary school, but now she won't even talk to me," I said. "That's just the way it is, isn't it?" "All girls her age are like that," Kathy replied, frowning. I vowed not to quit up on this family bond, even if it was the chilly answer I anticipated. "I guess so. If she kept calling me Dad, she might never get a boyfriend. By the way, does Mary have a boyfriend? She's beautiful like you, so she must be popular," I chuckled. My attempt at comedy, however, backfired, and Kathy looked irritated, saying, "Mary has her own life, so she's naturally wary since you're not her real father," and that sort of prying was plain weird. "Wary? She means she doesn't trust you. And please don't call Mary sweet or anything like that. It could be taken the wrong way." Kathy's scathing remarks sent me to my knees. How can I earn back my family's trust? I genuinely questioned. I believed that before it was too late, I needed to spend more time and interact with my family in a meaningful way. I've considered retiring when I turn 60 and giving my company to a friend. After that, I want to take Kathy and Mary on an opulent global cruise. Of course, this is meant to be a treat for Mary if she is accepted into college, but I still want to take her, to demonstrate to her that pleasure in life is about more than simply getting into a prestigious university and earning a job at a prestigious firm. I had once told Kathy that I was considering leaving the company. She displayed her rage. "What are you talking about? If you give up the company, how will we live? Do you know how much more money it will take?" "Yes, I am aware of this, but we should have enough savings to pay for Mary's entire school, and since I won't be leaving entirely, everything should be all right." I told her, "I won't let you guys suffer," and I managed to save Kathy. She said, "Yes, the account I gave you when we got married, all of a sudden. It was intended to be used for our future. That was a long time ago. I'm done with it," she said. It was as if someone had taken a hammer to my brain. "Used up. Then, what about Mary's future?" "You just need to keep working hard until you drop," Kathy replied with a sly smile. "The best thing you can do for your family is that. Don't worry about anything else. Simply work to fulfill our needs." "That's your purpose," she replied, her smile giving me a shiver. I wanted to think I was different, but after hearing Kathy say that there are many guys in this world who are fathers only in name, whose reality is merely to earn money, I had to confront the fact that I wasn't what she wanted in the first place. I was just a source of revenue. When I got home one night from yet another long workday, I saw this note on the front door. Asterisk starting today, I'm disregarding your existence asterisk. I took my time peeling the paper off the door and tucked it into my shoe. When I finally got inside, as I had promised, neither my wife nor my daughter acknowledged me. It was as though I had vanished from sight. Since no food had been prepared, I spread out on the dining table a quick meal I had picked up at the convenience store and began to eat. I opened the refrigerator, needing a beer badly, and there was not a single one left. Not only that, but all the snacks and dried foods I had purchased to go with the beer were thrown out, as if they had really made up their minds to ignore me. But the time came when that resolution was broken. I still wanted to live happily with my family the way we used to. I still had happy memories in my heart. I was resolved to honestly engage with my family no matter what. The reply was another note. Asterisk, do not come to the entrance ceremony. If you do, I will hate you forever. Asterisk, Mary was starting high school, and I had promised to take the day off work to attend. Peeling off the paper, I wondered how it had come to this, no matter how hard I tried. I could never come up with an explanation. Desperate to see Mary on her special day, I followed them in secret, only to find out a startling truth. Following the ceremony at the entry, Kathy and Mary went into a cafe, and I stepped in after them, lurking behind them as I listened to their jovial banter. Has he recently shown you any creepiness, Mom? I'm genuinely concerned for you. Well, occasionally I do sense his eerie gazes, but it appears that the ignore tactic is working. He no longer communicated with us. That's excellent. Mary, I apologize for forcing you to refer to someone else as Dad. He was, however, a very giving man. That's why I felt grateful. But that was his true purpose in life. My only goal was to save our future. I was so shocked to learn the truth that I was unable to move from that location even after they had departed. There was nothing to be gained. Everything had been a lie from the beginning. The wrath was so powerful that I was unable to control it. It was spring, a busy time for moving, and I never thought I would be this stressed out over not being loved. I went straight to the real estate agency and proceeded to cancel the lease on my apartment, which was close to the station, spacious, and well-lit, so the agent was surprised by the sudden cancellation, but I knew it would find a new tenant quickly. I also called to have the utilities, like water and electricity, disconnected. I stayed at work instead of going home, and the following day Kathy and Mary arrived at my office clearly agitated. The water and power are off. What is happening? Tell me not to worry. You have been paying your expenses. Have you never settled any bills on your own? I deliberately did that. You two must vacate the apartment before the end of this month, since I've also canceled the lease. I spoke abruptly and without emotion. And we're getting a divorce. Kathy's face reddened with rage after hearing this. Divorce? What topic are you discussing? That kind of stuff can't just be said out of the blue and expected to happen. It's not a sudden development. You married me merely to live comfortably. Isn't that right? She called me Dad, and you two laughed at me behind my back. What are you saying? What's the matter with you? You're not like the other people. I laughed a bit when Kathy said, Wasn't it you who always labeled me creepy? You will no longer have to coexist with a strange man. I hope the two of you have a great life together. The money I gave you when we got married is still with you, right? In addition to the monthly salary I have been providing you, you own all of the savings. But as I just mentioned, I'm almost done with that. Even now, what are you even saying? You ought to feel thankful that you have a family at all. It is only required of you to support that family. I won't end our marriage. I was conflicted by her refusal to get a divorce until I saw Mary was standing outside, glaring at me and shaking, and she was watching us dispute. Anyway, turn on the water and electricity again right now. We have 2 weeks left before the end of the month, even with our move. We're not even able to live right. You are able to give them a call. Get rid of my belongings. Are you not accustomed to getting rid of my belongings? Seldom do I have something noteworthy. My clothes and necessities are here because I've frequently stayed at the office. Are you going to live in your office's small break room? I have a house I bought during my first marriage, I said, shaking my head. Now, I intend to reside there. My mortgage still has to be paid off. I purchased a mansion with great excitement for the family. That mortgage payment could take a lifetime to pay off. A home. Now that I think about it, Kathy's face when we first met, at a club in downtown New York, was exactly the same. Her eyes sparked instantly. Her eyes brightened when she saw that I was a CEO. Kathy was in her late 30s at the time, and she must have been the most desperate of the younger ladies there, having a child too, thinking that things would be difficult and viewing me as an easy target. A reference? What topic are you discussing? I've never heard anything like that. You haven't heard because I never brought it up, of course. But it would be pointless to try to accept it. Since we bought it before we got married, it isn't regarded as joint property. Go ahead and seek alimony if you so choose. I'll fight you and get a lawyer. I truly don't want to go through a divorce trial, but because I now know that the family with Kathy was a deception from the beginning, I have no other choice than to accept this truth. What an unpleasant thing it is for a married couple to argue like this. I will undoubtedly make an alimony claim. It's just too cruel to turn off the water and electricity and force us to go all at once. And I'll see to it that you provide Mary child support. Kathy spit out her words, dragging Mary along as they drove out. I was prepared for a protracted battle because of her strong pride, but a few days later, she sent over the divorce papers without warning, and the divorce was completed amicably. I'll consent to a divorce if that's what you desire. I refuse to request child support or alimony. I'll get rid of everything in the house. Okay then, goodbye. That was the last time I heard from her. She's probably moved on to live with a new man. If it were just a matter of moving, getting rid of everything in the house would be strange. She's probably starting a new life somewhere with a new man. But that doesn't matter to me anymore. I don't care about what happens to Kathy or whoever she's with. I went back to the mansion in downtown New York, feeling depressed for the first time in a long time. How many years had passed since I'd last been here? The interior was immaculate, and everything about the house was in its original place, ready for immediate move-in. No, time in this house had stopped 10 years ago, the day my first wife, Amy, left with nothing more than a divorce notice and walked out. I have to thank Kathy reluctantly because without her, I never would have returned to this house. I told Kathy that it was a house to live in, but to be honest, I never meant to live here alone. It's unsettling to think of living in a house this size alone, and it makes no sense to keep paying a mortgage on a house that is empty. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to the real estate agent about selling the house. It might not be worth as much as when I bought it, but that is unavoidable. So simply being willing to let it go feels like a step forward. My phone rang then, and it was Amy. I stared at the caller ID, feeling shocked that I would actually see her name again, never dreaming that the day I moved back into the house we shared, she would call. And I answered, almost without thinking. I could hear my voice faltering as I said, "Hello." It had been 10 years since I'd spoken to Amy. "Tim, is that you?" "A long time has passed. How are you doing?" Her well-known voice made my heart race. "Yes, it has been a while." "How are you doing, Amy?" I genuinely loved her, and as I was speaking, memories of our time together came flooding back. When I first met Amy, 2 years after I started working for a big corporation, she was still a college student, and we got together through a mutual friend. Amy was already kind and gorgeous, well liked by everyone, so it felt miraculous that we were a couple. Her, the sought-after beauty, and me, the plain guy from a big company, especially when she admitted that she liked me first. I was genuinely happy. Following Amy's college graduation, we made a promise to each other when we got married. I bought a mansion that was way out of my price range, and we built a big, roomy house with the idea that we could live there comfortably as we grew older and started a family. We never lost our happiness, though, and we enjoyed each other's company throughout the day. But as I said earlier, work and business obligations caused me to spend more time away from home. Amy was working sick at the time, so she was on sick leave from her job, and I realized that leaving her alone in such a big house and just waiting for me to come home could have been upsetting for her. I didn't really think about Amy's feelings. I just thought it was enough that I could support her financially. And then, after taking only a few personal items with her, Amy vanished. I was shocked, but I was also getting angry at that point because even though she had never caused her financial difficulties, the way she abruptly left the marriage, as if running away, begs the question of how she could take into account the feelings of others. These kinds of thoughts come to me because of my upbringing. When Amy left, I was so distraught that I had to quit my job. It took some time for me to get over it. When we talked about my parents in therapy, the therapist said, "Your father was quite authoritarian towards the family, and you were affected by that." I thought back to when I was a child. My dad worked as an office worker, not very well paid, and he wasted away weekends and nights drinking. Our family never had much money, and my mom had to work 2 jobs to pay for my education. I could never forgive my dad, but I never took it out on him. Instead, I put all of my energy into my studies, outperforming him and landing a job at a big company. My way of getting even was to make sure my mother never had to worry about finances. I succeeded in getting into a prominent institution, but before I could get even, my father unexpectedly died from a horrible illness. Without my goal, I felt as though I had wasted all of my hard work leading up to it. Amy was the one who gave me a new purpose in life. "Your life should be lived for yourself," she informed me. I had a lasting tie to this house since I had also lost Amy, and I had even harbored hopes that she may return. That expectation persisted even when I married Kathy, and although I made every effort to be a good parent to them, I could not help but think about this house. I've been working abroad for the past few years, and this week I returned. I called out of the blue, saying, "I'm sorry to disturb you, knowing you have a family." "No, not at this time. I have a divorce." "Once more, I've lost everything," she answered. Then there was a gasp on the other end of the line, and Amy's voice became strained, and she burst into tears. "Amy, what's wrong? Are things going well for you?" Surprised, I questioned, expressing concern for her right away. "I apologize. That's when I got afraid." "I was really scared," the woman remarked. "Afraid? What frightened you? Did you get nervous because I wasn't coming home?" I sincerely apologized for it. I didn't know what was most important because I was young. No, that wasn't the reason. To be honest, I suffered from daily anxiety due to our inability to become parents. I felt inadequate to the magnificent home you had created. I felt a great deal of remorse. We'd never really talked about having kids. I simply assumed it would happen when it happened. I had no idea she'd been feeling so burdened. "I didn't know you had those feelings. For me, it was sufficient to simply be able to live with you," I remarked. "I had the same emotions. I've lamented our split forever. Would you wish to try living with me again?" After all the drama with Kathy and her family, I was scared I would be hurt again. But I also didn't want to look back and regret anything. I questioned, mustering up the confidence. She answered, "Give me some time to think." "Obviously. Take as much time as you require," I answered. "I don't want to ever make you regret anything." In any case, I hadn't seen the end of my battle yet, and a few days later, I received the call that was to come. I've made up my mind. I will make an alimony claim. Our lives are a disaster as a result of your actions. Since I was the one who had experienced the worst, I questioned how she could have spoken such a thing. Why the hurry? Guess what? Your new man ran away, didn't he? Are you going to try to con me out of even more money now? Kathy was obviously in a panic. A new man? What topic are you discussing? It won't help to pretend you don't know. I apologize, but I had a detective agency look into you. It seems strange that after raising such a fuss over alimony during the divorce, you suddenly decided you didn't want it. I've got proof. Is it still possible to discuss alimony? Kathy struggled to find words. Mary exists, but I think I should be the one requesting alimony. I don't want to burden her life, regardless of you. You really need to consider your lifestyle, if only for Mary's sake. Then Kathy gave Mary the phone. I apologize, Daddy. It wasn't how I intended for it to be. Don't leave Mom behind, please. Sadness welled up beyond my indignation. Were we again going to play such dirty tricks with our daughter? Listen, Mary, you and Mom have to collaborate honestly going forward. Relying on a man's assistance is not something you should do. It typically ends in sadness. But after I said that, Mary laughed and said, Huh. Do you believe that I should be treated like a child? Mom as well. Really? I detest grown-ups. I'm completely finished. I despise everyone, she yelled. Subsequently, there was a tremendous noise over the phone. She must have thrown it. The call was disconnected, suggesting that the phone shattered. She never called again. This seemed to settle the issue for the time being, but there's still something I haven't told you about. To be honest, I was lying when I said I had hired a detective agency to look into Kathy. I knew she had a new man already because I had arranged for him to be introduced to her. I set up a trap by bringing in an actor, and Kathy fell for it splendidly, getting carried away, and saying she needed neither alimony nor child support. Everything went according to plan. Having tasted wealth, it was unthinkable that she would go back to a regular job. But now, no longer young, I thought she would cling to any man who had money. I mean, she had been lying to me all along, so I suppose it wouldn't be unfair to lie to her in the end. But lying to someone like Kathy didn't make me happy. All I felt was a deep, empty feeling that words couldn't express. Afterwards, I learned that Kathy had nowhere else to go and went back to her parents' house. There, her brother and his wife were taking care of their aging parents, and there was an arrangement that allowed her to stay in exchange for helping to take care of them. Though that arrangement was short-lived. Kathy had never been good with her parents. She had always resented them, and they had never forgiven her for running away from home as if she were trying to escape. Before long, a tragic incident happened while she was living there, and it quickly became the talk of the household. Mary's mother was jailed, and she was placed with other family members. She was young and experienced many obstacles, but maybe it was best that she avoided Kathy's influence. I genuinely hope Mary may begin her life anew in a new home. When the summer was over, Amy came to my mansion. Her request for time to reflect was really about the fact that she had a fifth grader for a kid, which I was unaware of. I was so happy when you said you wanted to live together, but I couldn't bring myself to tell you about my son. What are you discussing, Amy? Now your son is also my son. I really do feel this way. I'll never forget the moment I saw Amy's son briefly peek out from behind her, his concerned expression shifting from Amy's face to mine. This is your dad from today, Kenny. Look at him. Say hello. Amy encouraged you. The bewildered youngster hesitated as his mother prodded him. So I said, You don't have to think of me as your dad right away. Kenny, welcome to our home. With a mental vow to take my time in assisting us in becoming a family, I held out my hand to the boy. Hey, were you in my class in high school? Eric, she seemed like she might have been in my class, and I ran into her when I got to the Hotel. Eric, hold on a moment. Are you merely a recent high school graduate? Even so, could you help your wife with that? Are you certain you're out? She mocked me as a potential customer and appeared unaware of my current predicament. Since I was pressed for time, all I really wanted was for her to carry out her duties. The upper class frequents this hotel, which is a prestigious, affluent establishment. It isn't really where recent high school graduates like you belong. Grad or not, it makes no difference. This hotel is where we have business. Furthermore, you are not in charge of selecting your guests. Yes, it is. We do turn away low-class high school graduates. It may be an investment of a lifetime for you. Is that the manager's policy? My wife finally spoke up after being silent up until that point. I had been laughed at, but she appeared much more indignant. Yes, it's the manager's policy to refuse service to anyone less than a high school graduate. She smiled as she spoke, little realizing that this would be the beginning of the end for her. Please call the manager to the owner's suite right now. She became pale at that point. Eric is who I am. I married Katie a few years ago, and we find ourselves in a bit of a bind at the moment. Just the two of us are lost. We traveled to this area for work, but since it was our first visit, we wound up getting lost. This is troubling. You don't seem overly concerned, but we are in a tight spot. We won't arrive on time if we continue like this. It was our intention to go there immediately upon departing the station. Our destination is a well-known, venerable, upmarket hotel in the neighborhood. We won't arrive at our appointment in time at this rate. It's strange, as my wife stated. Why are we unable to locate it? My spouse is feverishly looking up locations on her phone and scanning through the map. There don't seem to be any taxis here, despite my own search. Maybe I could use an app to hail a cab, if I could locate a landmark. As soon as I realized it, I pulled out my phone. I understand now. The map was inverted. My wife said, we were going in the wrong direction. All right. We can never get there if we choose the incorrect route. Whoa, were we both viewing the map inverted? Were we never this poor at following instructions? I've got no excuse. We assumed we could find it simply because we had been told it was only a 10-minute walk from a big station. We appear to be less adept at directions than we initially believed. We grinned wryly at each other. Let's head back to the station. Yeah, we'd better take a taxi this time so we don't get lost again. Sounds good. We walked back after grinning miserably. Eric, let's play. Katie, what do you want to do? Beside our current residence, Katie and I were childhood pals. Morning, Eric. Good morning, Katie. Do you want to stop at the variety store on the way back from school? Let's head there. Yes, this month is also your birthday. I might get you something. That's sweet, but I was planning to get you a birthday present too. Then let's both buy gifts. Yay. It's accurate, you too. Detours are okay, but please exercise caution. Sure thing. Got it. We even had the same birth month and were the same age. We played together, went shopping together, and attended school together. Since the day we were born, our grandparents and parents have been close friends as well. Katie, welcome back. I'm home. Eric. Mom, I'm back. Both of you had some snacks at home today, okay. We went to each other's places on a regular basis. Dave, let's play. Yes. How ought we to proceed? Tag? Come on, let me play too. As if they were our own parents, we would play with each other's dads and eat snacks made by each other's mothers. Happy New Year, Ronald. Marie. Indeed. Cheers to a good New Year. Eric, here's a gift for you two this New Year. Congrats. Together, let's head to the church service for the New Year. Sure, let's do that. Yay, That sounds good. Obviously, our grandparents were included in this. We addressed the members of each other's families by their first names. Katie, you're really absent-minded. Eric, you're pretty laid back too. Yes, you're correct. Let's have these together later. I located Katie's favorite candies at the convenience store and bought them. Are you serious? What time did you leave? Do you recall that on the way, I stopped at the convenience store? Oh, that time I got a drink from a vending machine that I thought you might enjoy. Then let's have it with the sweets. We considered one another to be our closest, most compassionate friends, and I couldn't fathom my existence without Katie. There's a chemistry between Eric and Katie. Do you agree with that? I'm not certain. I'm not sure, honestly. You're correct. You two seem like a great match, though maybe that's just because you're together all the time. I can't possibly imagine the two of you apart. People often remarked that we had the same aura despite our similar upbringings. We'd always been naturally close, even as young children. Living in separate homes was akin to having an extended family. I could only see her standing next to me for that reason. Hey Katie, how are you? Though it may come as a surprise, I can only envision myself with you. Will you accompany me out then? Are you serious? Naturally, I will. I'm happy that few. Though I was still anxious, I assumed you would. It's true that you sounded uneasy, which is unusual for you. Therefore, I suppose it was only logical for us to consider getting married when the time was perfect. Yes, Katie, I want to spend my entire life with you. Will you then marry me? Hey, you're trembling in your voice again. Naturally, I will. It's true that I felt anxious during the proposal and confession, but that's just the way it's always been. Katie and I hadn't been together since we were infants. I owe Katie a great deal for continuing to be a strong supporter of my work even now. After that, we got a taxi back to the station. The cab driver laughed heartily when I hurriedly explained our position. We eventually reached the classic luxury hotel, which was our target. Oh, Eric, that's not good. There are just 10 minutes remaining. Yikes, let's hurry to the check-in. Yes, let's do that. We dashed to the front desk. My name is Eric. I apologize for being so impromptu. Can you help us out quickly? Eric? Are you the Eric that I knew in high school? Her voice caught my attention as I looked up. This is Marissa. We attended the same secondary school. She was a classmate, it seems. Her name tag and clothing suggested that she was employed by the hotel. Ah, Marissa. Yes, I seem to recall you from our time in school. Long time not seen. Is this Katie then? Do the two of you still get along? Do you consider yourself married or something? That is astonishing, really. She seems to be aware of Katie as well. That would make sense if she had been a fellow student in high school. But everyone in the foyer turned to watch Marissa laugh uncontrollably. We both scowled, uncomfortable beyond belief. It's not appropriate to laugh so hard over it. Please just do your job. Come on, a little laugh is fine. It's not acceptable. Here, we seem to be in a rush. She didn't appear eager to continue with the check-in. Marissa gave her eyes a playful narrowing. Erica, are you really only a recent high school graduate? Are you truly able to stand by your wife in that? Are you certain you're all right? Hey, that's rude. It's fine, Kitty. Katie tried to oppose Marissa's mocking tone, but I stopped her. It's impossible to dispute, is it? What are recent high school graduates? Janitors at best. Oh. Maybe building laborers, perhaps. Either way, nasty and dirty, Marissa yelled as she carried on her tirade. The upper class frequents this hotel, which is a prestigious and luxurious establishment. It isn't really where recent high school graduates like you belong. Gior or not, it makes no difference. This hotel is where we have business. Furthermore, you are not in charge of selecting your guests. Yes, it is. We do turn away low-class high school graduates. It may be an investment of a lifetime for you. Marissa continued to sneer and try to push us away, ignoring anything I said. Is that the manager's policy? Katie, who had asked not to speak, finally piped up at that time. Yes, the management has the policy of not serving anyone who is not a high school graduate. Marissa mockingly answered her cool-headed question. Please go. I was familiar with Katie. I watched her activities silently. Marissa continued to smirk. Well, if you grovel and agree to do as I say from now on, maybe I won't turn you away. Hey, why are you laughing now? Are you crazy now? Oh no, Katie started laughing, so I automatically put my palm to my forehead. Marissa gave us a perplexed expression. Haha, really? You say the funniest things. When Katie is upset, she frequently bursts out laughing. What are you trying to say? It is verifiable. Reality. All right, I'll make sure you know what you did. Marissa blurted out in fear as Katie abruptly stopped laughing and became serious. Next, Katie spoke a chilly "Oh, hello. It's Katie here." Disregarding Marissa's runaway, Katie pulled out her phone and dialed someone. Kindly request that the management visit the owner's suite immediately. I will also quickly be there. Domestic. Supervisor. The suite of the owner. Marissa cast a bewildered glance at Katie. I suppose I should introduce myself sooner. This hotel is owned by me, Katie. It's good to meet you. Katie gave Marissa a lovely smile. In actuality, Katie's family is wealthy and possesses a large number of real estate properties. Katie remained involved in her family's business even after we were married. In due course, Katie acquired multiple hotel properties. Eric, the hotel we're going to is this one, right? Yes, that's right. Excellent, excellent. This is the other motel that my father recently gave me the keys to as its owner. This is an ideal time to do an inspection. My work initially required us to visit, but we also intended to perform a surprise inspection. The owner's suite was then shown to us. I'm terribly sorry for what happened. Several suit-clad men and Marissa were apologizing in the owner's suite. I've heard of Marissa's impolite actions. I apologize sincerely. Ted, the manager, was one of them. Ted, is it true that your policy is to refuse guests who are high school graduates or less? Achieved it. How precisely were you going to verify that? Katie asked Ted a pointed question. What? That is not possible. Who made such a statement? That is absolutely not my objective. Ted ran away, obviously shocked. Standing next to him, Marissa cast a pallid glance down. Are you letting the front desk staff decide who gets to stay? No, that's absolutely not the case. But that's exactly what she said. You are aware that our guests interact with us at the front desk. First, don't you? Obviously, I get it. However, you don't seem to get that the hotel will look bad if this is how her staff acts. It is your duty as manager to select and develop employees who won't make our visitors uncomfortable. What are your thoughts about that? As a hotel staff member, I apologize. With a pallid face, Ted was the focus of Katie's lesson. Ted seems to be stuck with his constant apology routine. That's enough, Katie. I chided myself in the end after attempting to calm her down. Stay out of this. Ted seemed to notice me at last when I made an interjection. He gave me a surprised look when he saw me. Oh, you are? Aren't you Mr. Wilson? He came running over to me. Marissa looked up at this, as she had been looking down. The press conference is about to start. That reminder reminded us of the purpose of our visit to this hotel, a shoot. With a quick peek at my watch, I whispered, "Shoot." I was engrossed in Katie's rage to the point where I forgot I was meant to be at this hotel for a press conference. I play chess professionally. After turning pro in high school, I've been winning since, and now I was going to go up against the title of master. We had the press conference. Today. Tomorrow is when the bouts begin. Oh no, I wonder what the press will write if Mr. Wilson is unable to attend the press conference due to the hotel situation. Ted and the others began to lose our minds. We have to move quickly and escort him to the venue immediately. Our conversation isn't over yet. Eric is escorted to the location by just one person. Shall the rest of you and I had a lovely, lengthy conversation. Katie smiled, alarmingly gorgeous, as she said this. Yes, you there, please show the way. Yes, ma'am. The selected staff member led me out of the owner's suite. With cheers in my heart, I made my way to the location, saying, "Hang in there, staff member." I eventually made it to the location. My tour guide came back, her eyes welling up with tears. I watched him leave and went into the arena where Master Smith, my opponent for this bout, was already giving me the cold shoulder. The master title belongs to Master Smith, a well-known player in the chess community. In addition, he serves as my mentor and my role model. I was excited to put him to the test once more. The scowling Master Smith instantly softened his demeanor. He laughed and remarked, "Eric, late again," to which I replied with a smile. My wife and I were gazing at the map upside down. He made a joke, "Ha, you two are as clueless as ever." I rubbed my head, embarrassed by my mentor's laughter. Master Smith had previously taught Katie chess as well, but Katie gave up, stating, "It's not fun, because I always lose to Eric." "Are you Eric?" "Yes, that's me. I know Pete rather well. Go ahead and give chess a shot." "Yeah, I'll give it a shot." Master Smith first became my tutor because of his previous relationship with Pete. You two still have a great relationship. What a wonderful mentor-mentee relationship, really. Isn't this match between a mentor and prodigy what has the chess world watching? It will be wonderful to see the collision of like ideas. It was widely known that Master Smith and I were mentor and protege. The press conference moved along at a leisurely pace. Thankfully, it concluded satisfactorily. Phew, glad that's over. You're still so laid back, aren't you? Is that so? Master Smith stated this as he observed me. He groaned and said, "But when it comes to the match, you transform into someone else." I'm not really sure how I comprehend it. Is Katie the same as well? I laughed and Master Smith said, seeming a little annoyed. In fact, Katie turns into a rigid entrepreneur and is typically more forgetful than I am. However, much like before, she has a strict side to her, especially when she's upset. I bet Katie is still lecturing someone at this very moment. She was so cool earlier, but also kind of terrifying. Your eyes become more focused and you show amazing concentration when playing chess. You play chess in an aggressive, relentlessly offensive manner. Well, I do often get that kind of feedback. That fluffy personality of yours comes up with moves that are unexpectedly tricky, honestly, making it difficult to play against you, said my mentor, Master Smith. But has he forgotten that I learned this particular chess strategy from none other than Master Smith? I basically learned my chess-playing technique from him. I'm excited about tomorrow, he remarked, holding out his hand. Yes, me too. I firmly shook his hand after taking it. We gave each other a firm handshake. A best-of-7 series, the Master Championship matches travel to hotels and inns across the country. Every match is 8 hours long, spread out across 2 days. Even though these are professional matches, the media, including the sponsoring newspapers, tend to ignore them. That's most likely the reason Marissa was unaware that I was a professional chess player. Master Smith, my mentor, has given me advice and recognition for having a solid sense of the game since I was little. Pete was correct. Eric You've got good judgment. Would you like to follow me officially? Will that make me better? Yes, with your potential, you'll improve rapidly. I believe that. Pete had stated that Eric would undoubtedly emerge as John's choice. Through him, a relationship was established. Though it took me multiple tries to pass the professional tests, I made quick progress. I went to neighborhood public schools for middle and high school, and I was so focused on chess that I did poorly in both academics and athletics. I suppose I was a pretty inconspicuous student. I used to target you for bullying because you were so unimpressive back then. Erica, really? Because of how natural you are, it's possible that you were unaware of the bullying. Marissa was with me when Katie and I got back together. Hello, you pessimistic one. You're not even good at studying. You're dark. What does that have to do with? How come? You too. Eric isn't as willing to annoy you anymore. Looking back, I can say that there was a group that frequently upset me, but I didn't really notice it at the time because I was more focused on chess and Katie's support. It was most annoying that you ignored us. Marissa claims that I wasn't purposefully ignoring them. I was just not aware of them. Hey, I heard that despite being a senior, Eric hasn't made a decision about his future yet. Nearly everyone has already reserved a spot in college. Eric is simply unique, isn't he? My ambiguous career path felt out of place in high school, where the majority of students were concentrated on getting into college. Katie, listen, I finally passed a pro exam. Are you serious? That's fantastic. Eric, I know you've been working hard. Yes, and there's something else I want to tell you. In the meantime, during my final year of high school, I passed the pro exam. Although I went on to become a professional chess player, most of my classmates just knew that I dropped out of school. Given that I didn't actually inform anyone but Katie, it makes sense that they were unaware. It was also at that time that Katie and I formally began dating after my confession to her. I'm sorry. I wanted to apologize, but can we just stop this right now? I was about to play an important match. Kindly keep me out of this. I see. I'm telling you to get retrained, Marissa. Additionally, you will be suspended for a while. Be careful not to reveal your face to us. Understood. For the time being, it appeared as though Marissa had conceded, but in reality, nothing had happened. When the match's first day came to a close the following day, I was going to head back to my room. The next move should be, no, that would be counted then maybe, Eric. Marissa, who was meant to be suspended, was there when I ran into her on my route. I wanted to apologize so much. Could we go out to dinner later? I'm currently occupied. I casually replied, just leave me alone, my thoughts entirely focused on the game of chess. Master Smith is a powerful man. I have to concentrate on the game tomorrow. I had no idea that you were a competitive chess player. How important is the Master tournament? Eric, you're so awesome. I've always known that you're unique. You know, I've really liked you since we were little. I was harsh to you back then because of this. Hey, do you even think I'm speaking? Hi there. Marissa caught me thinking about chess and touched my arm. Would you please let go? Put an end to it. Katie stepped in. She moved in between Marissa and me, forcing her to release her grip on my arm. Oh, Marissa said, appearing briefly frightened by Katie's presence. She angrily snapped back, don't interfere. The one meddling is you. It's a crucial moment right now. You were meant to be on suspension, right? You weren't supposed to reveal your face, right? Are you able to comprehend that? That is unimportant. In addition, chess professionals make a lot of money, right? Are you not just after his money? Marissa's prodding appeared to have irritated Katie. Are you serious? Here, I am the proprietor. I work for my own money, Katie told Marissa in a clear-cut and forceful manner. Then give him up to me. What? Katie and I both silently conveyed our perplexity at her unintelligible remarks. Absolutely not. What even appeals to you about Eric? In what number? Numerous things. Could you enumerate them? All right. So that's, since we were young, I have been observing Eric. I'd adore every aspect of him, both positive and negative. I will always love him, regardless of whether he ends as big, bald, or impoverished in the future. Marissa seemed a little surprised by Katie's strong statement. My entire body began to warm up in the interim. Katie, though that is a little awkward, I'm still thrilled. At that moment, my face was probably beet red. Asterisk cough asterisk. It is impossible for me to consider dating anyone else because I have a significant other. All I could think of was Katie. Nobody else could possibly be on my side but her. For me, she is the only one. I will always love her and nothing else, no matter what happens in the future. Hey, you two. As I said this, I had Marissa's full attention. Stupid couple. Perfect for each other. You idiots. After saying these things, Marissa stormed off. All we could do when left alone was giggle together while our faces remained red. Shall we head to our room then? Oh yeah. Master Smith prevailed in the opening match of the master competition. It was rather annoying, to be honest, but it's not done yet. That concept caused me to change my perspective. Manager Ted came to say goodbye, saying, Mr. Wilson, I'm truly sorry for what happened at the chout. Again, he expressed his sincere regret. Marissa resigned from her job today. Oh, I'd only asked for her suspension, not for her to be fired. Ted said it was her own decision. That foolish couple. I will never prevail over Katie. All I want is for everything to go away. Let me resign, please, Marissa had pleaded. Listen, your management determines the employee's quality. Katie reminded Ted. As the manager, make sure you properly re-educate your staff. She smiled, a little intimidating. Yes, sir. I'll return soon to do another examination. After Katie said that, we started to head home. A very interesting trip. Thinking back on the trip, I never would have imagined getting into this much difficulty the day before the match. I laughed. To myself, it was very intense. But I also got to hear my wife speak words of love and witness. Her acting like a savvy company owner. The excursion was worthwhile. I now have to put forth my best effort and win the following match. 1 week later. Good job. Oh, I'm very grateful. I had managed to concentrate well enough to finish the master tournament. After the match with Master Smith, pay close attention. I believe I did a really good job. Tomorrow, our parents want to celebrate for you. Are you serious? I take it that there will be a sizable crowd once more. Yes, that's right. Our mothers reprimanded both of our parents for taking time off work to see the master tournament. Hey, I can see that. They must be anxiously awaiting our return at this point. Maybe. As we laughed, we both remembered our parents. How about we go on a trip after things settle down? Well, it makes sense. In fact, I had intended to return to that hotel to do an inspection. I'll adapt to your timetable the next time because it was for me the last time. I'm grateful. By the way, I was overjoyed by your loving remarks at the time. Well, give up. The things you said at the moment made me pleased as well. Again, we both flushed. We just can't get used to this, even after spending so much time together. How frightening the owner and her father both are is truly unsettling. Was Pete a terrifying person as well? Jess, I have been a guest at this hotel since the days of her father. Although quite rigid about business, He was also incredibly nice. At that moment, I noticed a hint of her father in her. Similar to Pete, That's how you also get during chess games. It's something I hear a lot. In any case, Pete is like a second father to me. Is that so? Eric, what are you talking about with Ted? Just discussing things about you and Pete. I see. It seems Marissa had a difficult time getting out of that hotel, by the way. The stories had gotten around, so she was unable to get work at other hotels. Furthermore, she made approaches to a number of guys who appeared to have steady jobs, but she was rejected each time and eventually fell for a shady man's scam, which left her in debt. She now has to balance a hectic life with duties she used to despise, like construction and cleaning. After some time, I learned of Marissa's predicament from a former classmate. She eventually asked for assistance from her former classmates before vanishing from view. Katie, please stay with me forever. Obviously, we will always be together, even when we grow old together. We shook hands and vowed to work together in the future. After a few years, 2 children were born into our family. Since he was a little child, our son has dedicated himself to his studies with the goal of replacing Katie. Our daughter, on the other hand, is a chess enthusiast who says she wants to learn the game and compete against me. And Master Smith is training her very fervently, too, with the hope that she will outdo me. Katie and I exchanged a smile as we watched them. You've given me a lot of support. I'm grateful, Katie. Really. Erica, I should be the one saying thanks. I was inspired to work hard after witnessing your hard effort. I'm so happy you're here. Me too. It's a tremendous pleasure to have you. I have loved you in the past. I love you now. And I always will. Me too. Mom and Dad are being lovey-dovey again. Red in the face, we were both mocked by our kids. I'm sure you two will meet someone you want to spend the rest of your lives with. Stay close. And lend each other support. All right. I wish to stay in close proximity to my beloved Katie. Naturally, in addition to our kids.